Also available from PP Video Productions.
And wonderful hill climbs here at Prescott and at Shells-le-Walsh. Raymond Mays, who started ERAs and was their principal driver, was remarkably successful with his 2-litre ERA, very much like this.
Just as advertised on the club van, Crystal Palace it was, with many of the corners eased and the pits and paddock now between South and North Tyre bends. The LCC had worked hard and left no stone unturned. Nick Syrett and Ian Smith cannot make up their minds about a club film this year. And back in the paddock, a similar air of uncertainty is apparent. Hope we go off the line forwards. The UDT Laystall team are there, with motor scooters to match. But who are those drivers? Asks actor Donald Houston. But there is one we do know, John Ailey. He may be a little thin on top, but his driving is highly hairy. Nick sets out the silverware for the 5 races of the day. Raymond Baxter wonders what on earth they find to talk about. Well now, about this film. Meantime, the grid lines up for the Grand Touring Car event. 2 E-Type Jaguars and 2 Ferraris Berlinettas share the front row of the grid. For 2 laps of the 10, Jack Sears led Roy Salvadori, with Graham Whitehead's Ferrari third. But Salvadori came through to win. Marshalling is thirsty work, and Bert Lampkin's about to wet his whistle for Bill Travers to start the Green Helmet Trophy race for sports cars. And off they go. We didn't see what happened, but obviously Raymond did. The star of the film, the Green Helmet, stars in our club film as well, and waves the checkered flag to mark another win by Salvadori. The John Coombs-entered Cooper Monaco gives Roy his second victory of the day. Well, with Bill Travers in it, we'll have to make a club film. Main event of the day was the London Trophy race. And that's the view of Salvadori the other drivers saw for almost all of the 37 laps of the race for Formula One cars. For the first two of the 37 installments, UDT led Yeoman credit. Tony Marsh moves up into third place, behind Henry Taylor, whilst out in front raced Salvadori. And here he is, taking Ramp Bend and on his way up to South Tower Corner. Behind him, Twisk of the Tulip Stable says it with flowers. Too much tiptoe and not enough tulips. Roy Salvadori makes it 3 in a row. Well, if we do make a club film, we simply must have Salvadori in it. And here he is again, in John Coombs's 3.8. Tommy Sopwith's 3.8 is driven by Mike Parks for the final event of the day. Powell also drove a 3.8. So too did Gawain Bailey. In all, 8 Jaguars were running, which left John Ailey in a mini minority. Jack Sears led from Salvadori at the start. Then Parks led, but lost a wheel to alter the scoreboard as well as the landscape. Hence the expression, Mike Parks. But someplace else, please. It's no good. You'll have to go. That must have done it. They've decided to have a club film after all. So, from Crystal Palace to our next location, our producer gives the word, boys, it's Mallory Park, or bust. And what a big bust. Meantime, let's have a little music from Morel and his single-seater piano. Mallory Park lies about 130 miles north of London and is one of the 7 circuits on which the club organises its 22 annual race meetings. In its private grounds, there's a happy and formal atmosphere. People eat each other's sandwiches and borrow each other's welding plants. Nick Syrett relaxes for a moment. And so too does our producer, Cecil B. DeRosco. But not Morel, he's hard at it. I say, excuse me, psst, I'd say, don't look round now, but I think your piano's on fire. The meeting opened with a Formula Junior race, and the drivers get their briefing. Whilst final minor adjustments are made to the cars. Pritchard's Envoy Ford is wheeled onto the grid. Don Truman holds up one of the new invisible plastic 5 minutes to go boards. Well, I told him his piano was on fire. But let's cool off with a drive round the Mallory Park circuit. 1.4 miles to the lap, it tends to be a driver's circuit, where too much power can be more of a hindrance than a help. In fact, an ideal circuit for the cars of Formula Junior. Pierce's Lotus led throughout to win an exciting race. Too bad you missed it. A Berserk breakdown wagon gave the bridge a belt, but this was kids' stuff up against the saloon car race. Ratcliffe's Minor led at the start, ahead of Murfield's Anglia. But on the second lap, the Anglia takes the Minor. For 10 laps the duel lasted, the Anglia holding on to its lead, but only just. Last lap, and out of the hairpin for the last time. Murfield has the edge on Ratcliffe, and apart from a friendly nudge, it's all over, but what a race. You too can have a body like mine. Heat 2 of the Formula Junior race saw Romain's Lotus lead from Reese's Terrier. Lap 2 and the Terrier leads. Third lap, and the Terrier is still top dog. Romain's Lotus is second. Eccles spins the Elva, and Woodley's Emerson shunts him. But it's only feelings that are hurt, and the marshals mop up the mess. Meantime, Romain's Lotus goes ahead of Reese's Terrier to take the checkered flag. And whilst Chief Marshal Noel Etches cleans up the circuit, officials check the runners for the FJ final. Jack Pierce led from start to finish. But there was plenty of exciting motor racing right down through the field. Gavin Yule has a moment with the MRD. Please, Mr. Mays, no language like that in our film. And as Braco's Lotus leaves the hairpin, the flag goes out for Pierce. Why can't you cameramen leave a chap alone? But now it's time to go. All good things must come to an end. And when you've got to go to Brands Hatch for the international date on August Bank Holiday. The car park soon filled up. As a record crowd flocked in for the Intercontinental Formula race and a full program of supporting events. The paddock too looked pretty full. Bob Anderson's Lotus Ford was there. So too were John Cooper and John Coombs. Anthony Marsh was talking to the drivers of Centro Sud. And who wouldn't buy one if they could? Bill Moss was there. And Ashdown's Lola Ford. Pam Wallace paints the numbers. And also present was Jack Brabham, world champion of 1959 and 60. Shocking lack of space in the boot of these cars. And Bandini too is all packed up, but at least his car is in one piece. This chap has only just bought the kit. The Indianapolis Cooper is here for a tour of honor. And whilst Nick Syrett hands out instructions, Les Leston hands out parcels containing the Leston lead boot kit, every one guaranteed to lower your lap time. In the interval, some of the cars modified and manufactured by exhibitors at the International Racing Car Show are paraded before the large crowd. The Racing Car Show is one of the brightest jewels in the BRSCC crown. It typifies the young and enthusiastic approach of the finest club in the country. Now for the start of the Formula Junior race, and, to coin a phrase, they're off. And some are more off than others. Mike Spence spins the Emerson, and John Brown's Lotus body lies a mouldering behind. But the race goes marching on, and Peter Arundel's Lotus wins from Parks on the Gemini. Mags Cooper comes third. Now the Grand Tourers come out. Graham Hill and Salvadori on E-types are followed by Peter Job's Elite. Parks comes up to the line on the red or East Berlinetta Ferrari. Next to him is Sterling, also on a Berlinetta. Down goes the flag and the driver's feet. The blue Berlinetta leads from the red one. And soon it's Moss way out on his own. With the E-types second and third. Further down the field, Les Leston and Graham Warner continue their season-long scrap, with Daddy-O winning from Love One. On the 8th of the 20 laps, Graham Hill suffered a puncture. And Sterling Moss drove home an easy victor. Sterling steps up to receive his garland and the Pico Trophy. And goes off for a lap of honour in an E-type Jaguar. And now for the big race, the 76 lap Intercontinental Formula race for the Guards Trophy. Odd sort of crash hat he's wearing. This is the big event, and all the stars are here. Sterling, Bruce McLaren, most of them just back from Nürburgring. John Surtees, Roy Salvadori, Dan Gurney, Marston Gregory, Jim Clark, Tony Marsh, Naylor, Bandini, and head and shoulders above the others, Innes Ireland. Tony Brooks waits in the BRM. Lex Davison's Aston Martin is wheeled into place. And there's just 1 minute to go before the Guards Trophy starts. And as they filter down through Druids, it's John Surtees at the lighted end. Moss is second and Marston Gregory third. Sterling's bend, and the order is the same. Lap 4, and Hill moves the BRM up to third. Grabber moves up to sixth after a hesitant start. Moss chases Surtees into Paddock Bend. And Bruce McLaren nudges Marston Gregory. But the Cooper driver continues, leaving Marston bothered and bewildered, and something else as well. Now Sterling closes up on Surtees, and Jack Brabham is after them both. Bandini's Maserati makes a pit stop. And on lap 15, Brabham takes the lead. But Sterling wins it back. The leaders now are lapping the slower men. Surtees spins and retires. Moss retires as well with gearbox failure. The Cooper is wheeled away. And Jack Brabham's pit crew show him how far out in front he is. And Sterling gives him a signal too. One lap to go, and Jack Brabham on the Cooper comes through clearways to take the checkered flag ahead of Clark and Gill. Jack accepts his laurels at the hands of Mr. Bulpitt, a director of Carreras, and the Guards Trophy too. Then off on a lap of honour, escorted by 3 Guards vans. To finish off an exciting day, the touring cars came out for the Red X Trophy race, with the 3.8 Jaguars making all the running. Must be something to do with the Guards Trophy, I suppose, but McLaren's Jag has taken up smoking. Graham Hill lines up on our cameraman. And the Minis enjoy themselves as always. And there's McLaren again. I do hope he's not inhaling. So yet another race runs out. One of many in the crowded calendar that each year the club provides for its members. 22 race meetings, not counting rallies and sprints and driving tests, and the racing car show too, and countless social gatherings. If you're not a member, why not join? The club will welcome you as a driver, a spectator. There's a seat in the stand waiting for you, or an official. You might like to be a marshal. It's their devoted work that helps to make motor racing possible.
Motor racing, today's most exciting sport, is now more popular than ever. This increasing popularity owes much to the clubs who organise race meetings around the country and who make sure that motor racing is always worth watching. In the front rank of this racing world is the British Racing and Sports Car Club. June 1962, and the Northern Centre parks its mobile control building at Rufford in Yorkshire, the fastest race control building in England. Alan Richardson, chairman of the Northern Centre, is glad to see a bright day for the racing. And the officials too take the opportunity of wearing their summer finery. It's business as usual in the paddock. Just brush away the cobwebs, find all the pieces, and we're ready for another season's racing. And it's open day for the spectators too. It doesn't matter how you come, so long as you get there. The turnstiles are kept busy as the spectators roll in for this popular meeting. The timekeepers zero their watches as Alan Richardson starts the countdown for Event 1. The flag falls and drivers start lap 1 of this 1.7-mile course. Rufford is an airfield circuit with the perimeter track providing the bends and a runway forming the main straight. Finney in the U2 finds himself the wrong side of the barrels. But Burgess in the Lotus makes no mistake through the S's. Clerk of the course, Ted Tate, uses more luxurious transport for his tour of the circuit. Romanes and Diudi put their juniors through the S's in perfect style. But then it all turns into a driving test meeting, as Leffley stops astride line C, into garage D, and onto a flying finish. But all too soon, the last race is over, and Centre Secretary George Johnson accepts a well-earned beer at the end of the day. Castle Combe, voted the prettiest village in England and scene of the Southwestern Centre's July meeting, where Nick Syrett, the club secretary, briefs the drivers before the first race. One slip in these precise calculations and he'll be paddling home. Chris Summers in the Cooper Chevrolet, current holder of the circuit record. The saloon car race is always popular on this fast 1.8-mile circuit. Lee, in the Jaguar 3.8, finds himself involved in a duel with the Minis. But it was Chris Craft in his Formula One Anglia who stayed in front. Lee was never far behind, trying all he knew to keep up with the flying Anglia. It was Williams in the A40 who eventually claimed second place as the Jaguar stopped for a picnic amongst the vegetables and got back onto the road just in time for the rush hour. One thing about saloon car racing, you can drive home in it afterwards. Unless you motor about on the roof. Fry's Berlinetta Ferrari added spice to the Grand Touring race. But Baker in the E-Type was an easy winner, breaking the class record in the process. Fry and McNally battled for third place, with the elite just squeezing past. Granville Smith in the Ace tries Camp Corner sideways and goes out to grass. Marshall's Venables, Buckland and Bates take a quick break, but not for long, as Kilburn's Lotus is frying tonight. Dennis Southwood does a quick respray with a fire extinguisher, and all is soon under control. And in the paddock, competitors are loading up after an exciting day's racing. So, we leave Castle Combe and head for our next meeting. To the north, via M1, to Oulton Park, for the Northwestern Centre's July meeting. For their event, the Northwestern Centre had a large and varied entry. Everything, in fact, from a Ferrari, this is Seabright's Type 625, to a special, the oil company's friend. Those must be mini rain tyres. John Ellison, chairman of the Northwestern Centre, briefs the drivers. They don't seem to like what he said. Tom Dooley, Centre Secretary, is also Secretary of the meeting. So, to Event 4, the saloon car race. Round Lodge Corner, some drivers turn it into a ploughing match. Bloor's A40 is neat round Lodge. But Eva in the Mini could do with a little more tarmac. And it's the Mini again, but still not enough road. Heaton's Riley gets lost, but nobody quite collects it. Ken Blakemore comes out to start the sports car race. And a mixed assortment takes off. The Ladybird Sports gets most unladylike. And the Wovenden Wombat revolves white wound. But it's no parking this side today, so the marshals soon get the Wombat back onto the track. Moving on to the start for the unlimited racing car event, Diudi in the Lotus Junior joins a full grid of assorted racing cars. Everything from a Formula Junior Lotus to Seabright's Ferrari. Brian Fox brings out the 3-minute board, and somebody remembers it's an unlimited race, so out comes a few pounds of lead from one of the Formula Junior cars. And then the flag is up, and battle is joined. At the end of the day, an unofficial car park was discovered at the bottom of Necker Brook. Seabright's Ferrari and Percival's Anglia. Both drivers were all right, which was more than could be said for their cars. Look, there are Ferraris at the bottom of our garden. I wonder how much he wants for this then. Looks okay. Aha, and there is an anti-roll bar. Brands Hatch, August bank holiday, and the big meeting of the year. This was to be Ferrari's day, with wins in the GT and Guards Trophy events. That's a funny place to do the twist. The crowds turned out in their thousands to watch one of the top meetings of the season. The paddock was packed with some of the finest racing machinery in Europe, and the top drivers were there too. John Surtees, Roy Salvadori, and with Bert Lampkin in his island having one of his turns. Mike Parks, who was to win 3 out of the 4 races, 2 of them in Ferraris, talks to teammate Jack Sears. As As the mechanics move off towards the pits, the GT cars come out for event 1. Mike Parks, eventual winner in the Ferrari 250 GTO, straps in on the start line. Off the line, it's Surtees Ferrari, a wheel ahead of Parks. Down Druids, the order is still Surtees, Parks. But by lap 3, it was Parks in the lead at Stirling's Bend, with Surtees second, followed by Salvadori and Ireland. By half distance, the rain had started, and the leaders were beginning to lap the back markers. Ireland and Salvadori were still dueling for third place. Peter Bolton in the TVR tries to keep his car on the island. But it's Parks in the Ferrari, well in the lead for the last time round Paddock Bend. Salvadori and Ireland fought through the rain to gain second and third places. And Parks takes the checkered flag for his first win of the day. The saloon cars come out for the 30-lap Molly Slip Trophy. A top-line entry with Parks, Salvadori and Hill in Jaguars, not to mention a swarm of angry minis. Down through Paddock Bend for the first time, in weather more suitable for motorboating. Dingle Dell, and Hill is ahead of Parks, followed by Salvadori and Sears. Salvadori and Gawain Bailey splash through clearways. Claire takes mini revenge on the Mercedes that put Christabel Carlisle out of the running. The wet track was calling for maximum skill and fine judgment when lapping slower cars. At Dingle Dell, Hill is just ahead of Parks as they lap the field. The lead changes hands, and Parks comes through ahead of Hill. Salvadori brings John Coombs' Jaguar through clearways in third place. Hill went into the bank at Druids, leaving Parks with a clear lead. While Sears and Salvadori contest second place. Again, Parks win, and Hill explains how one slip of the foot can bend a lot of motor car. The main event of the day, the Guards Trophy for sports cars with a top-line entry. Joachim Bonnier, Innes Ireland, this was hardly the weather for last-minute adjustments. Colin Chapman with Ian Walker. And Bonnier in the Testarossa Ferrari. Away from the start, it's Parks, Ireland, Clark, and American Roger Penske. Parks in the Ferrari takes the lead from Ireland in the Lotus. With 50 laps of the full circuit ahead, drivers were in for a wet journey. Parks was showing his skill in the rain by steadily pulling out a lead over Ireland. The leader through Westfield Bend, complete with fist shaking. Parks helps to make a sandwich of one of the back markers. The Team Walker Lotus 23s handle well through Paddock Bend. But Douglas Graham spins at Druids. Back in the pits, Graham is in more trouble. Parks goes into his last lap a clear leader. And the watches are on Ireland in second place. Carlo Abate in the Ferrari bread van goes through Westfield in fourth position. And the leader is through for the last time. At the end of the wettest long-distance race at Brands, Parks has proved his skill with a large car in appalling weather conditions. Congratulated by the Ferrari team, Mike Parks steps out to receive the Guards Trophy for 1962. And still it rained, but this did not deter Arundel and the rest of the Formula Junior drivers in the last race of the day. John Cooper looks pleased in anticipation of a Cooper victory in the junior race in the face of stiff opposition. And the man who did it was Tony Maggs in Tyrrell's Cooper. At the end of the junior race, there weren't enough cars to go round. And so, the flags go off to the laundry, and we leave Brands for another year. For some, it had been an expensive meeting. There are three ways of getting out of the car park: bouncing, pushing, or you can carry it home. Will anyone finding a Ferrari chassis in the paddock please return it to pit number 33? We close our film with a visit to Mallory Park for the Midland Centre's September meeting. Chief Observer Alan Britton talks to track manager Eric Darlow. Mike Brown is there to help with the meeting. And Keith Douglas has a full day's commentating ahead of him. The juniors come out onto the 1.3-mile circuit to start a full racing program. John Watt, the centre secretary, counts the seconds to the FJ start. Mallory Park is a fine circuit for drivers, with a tight hairpin, several changes of gradient, and a long, fast right-hander, not forgetting the S's. And it's into the S's now with the first saloon race. A clean start for the sports cars. Oh well, just think of the petrol you're saving. The Midland Centre believes in variety, and the programme shows 9 events with all types of cars catered for, and full value for the spectators too. The hairpin provides plenty of spectacle, with no room for driver error. Not much room for overtaking either. Look, ma'am, crossed hands. Now, the final saloon race. And we just have time for a demonstration of how to roll a Mini without hurting yourself. And as Beckham scampers back from the inverted Mini, it is time to leave Mallory and the club film for another year. With its centres around the country, the BRSCC provides the best in motor racing. As a driver, marshal, or spectator, the British Racing and Sports Car Club is your club. See you next year.
There are 2 more titles in the MotorRacing 60's style series, 1960 and 1967, with Jim Clark's first ever single-seater drive. Through to the first Formula One car to carry wings, the incredible Chaparral, with McLaren, Stewart, Hill and Rindt in the all-star lineup. 1963 and 1964, Dan Gurney and the Ford Galaxy, and Hopkirk in the Mini, with Jaguar saloons and E-types, and Ferraris galore. Jim Clark, Graham Hill, Jack Sears, GTs, saloons, sports and racing cars, the days of true motorsport. All PP Video titles are available, price £14.95, from all good book, video and accessory stores. In case of difficulty, contact PP Video at this address and we'll put you in touch with your nearest stockist.